Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show. It's Phil Tarrant here. I'm the editor of Smart Property Investment. I'm also your host of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. It's good to have you here. I've got a new regular co-host, pretty much. He's back.
Thank you,
Tim
mate.
Neary.
Yeah.
How you going, mate?
Good, mate. Yeah. Thank you for having me back again. Obviously, I didn't do too bad a job the last time.
I thought you needed some practice, so I thought I'd invite you back.
That's another way of putting it.
Just for our listeners, I've worked with Tim for quite some time. He's one of my colleagues here, Momentum Media, who's the business behind Smart Property Investment. Tim heads up editorial on a brand of ours called Real Estate Business, which is for residential real estate agents and property managers and that sort of stuff. So Tim has a very good knowledge of that part of the market and the way agents think. So he's always good to get him on and for him to lend his experience. So thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me back.
I've got another guy here, a property investor, which is good. We like them. Mark Frew. Mark, how you going, mate?
Good, thanks, mate.
So Mark's been involved with Smart Property Investment before, many years ago.
Oh, not many, but six.
About 6 years ago. Back in the day when you had how many properties?
That's 5, I think.
Okay, 5 properties. And today?
I've got 18.
18 properties in your portfolio.
Yep.
So you probably represent the point-something% of property investors with that many properties.
Yes, that's true.
How do you feel about that? Is it, do you identify yourself as being a property investor, or you're just a bloke getting through life and you just own 18 properties?
It's a funny thing that you say that, yeah. It's funny because I don't identify myself as a property investor as the primary person that I am. I'm a teacher, so I think of myself as an academic. So property investing is kind of this thing I do on the side, even though I've got this huge portfolio of 18 properties. So it's kind of like a secondary thing. In fact, I listen to a lot of your podcasts and do people come up here and they say, oh, how they're so enthralled in doing property and they love, they love it, they eat it, they consume property investing day by day. To me, I'm not really an enthusiastic property investor. I do it because I like the benefit I can get out of it, okay, and see what's going to happen in the future. But I know because of what the benefit I am going to get, I see the importance of doing it and being serious about it. You got to do it like a business. So I do keep abreast with what's going on in the market, what's going on with my properties. But I'd probably do as minimum as possible, which is still a lot in a week. So yes.
So you said you're a teacher.
Yeah.
What do you teach?
I'm a TAFE teacher. I teach English as a second language.
All right. Better look out here. He's an English expert. Don't pick me up any of my my sentence constructions and I don't know the difference between an adjective, a pronoun. I know I do it, but I don't know what they're called.
Yeah.
So, which I think is a really dying art, personally. My job is words, right? Whether I'm talking it or I'm writing it. I'm pretty good, right? So is Tim. My sentence construction is excellent, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know the terms and stuff of it. So by day, a teacher.
Yep.
By nights,
I would probably do property
investor.
investing. And that's the problem because, it does consume a lot of my time. As much as I don't like doing it, when I say don't like, it's not like I hate it. It's just like it's something I have to do, but it's not something I want to do. But I see the value of it. So, I go to work because I work the night shifts because it's very hard to get TAFE teachers who want to do nights. So I don't mind doing the night shift. So I might finish at 9 o'clock, then get home, and then I'm on emailing for the next hour or so, fixing things. And the other things, I am kind of a bit active because not only am I looking after properties, I'm on all the EC, I'm in all the EC member of all my properties, all the stratas. So every strata, I'm an active EC member and always doing something, always answering questions, going to all the meetings. Even if I have to go up to Queensland or down in Melbourne, I'm always travelling around as well.
That's good.
So I'm really into it.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I wanted you on the show today is that I wanted to talk about this two lives that you lead, right? You have a professional life, but then 18 properties is going to require a certain level of management, and you could easily not think about that and just park them and let them do what they want to do, but you're probably not going to grow your portfolio. But the fact that you're hands-on, it means that the continued connectivity that you have with your portfolio is just going to involve your thinking all the time and help keep the sort of pedal down for you to continue to grow. I'm quite interested in the fact that I know that teachers, like nurses, like police people, don't get paid as much as what they should do for what they do and give back to society.
I totally agree.
And I'm not going to ask you how much money you make, but teacher salaries are average.
Yes,
they're
yes,
okay. They're
yes.
okay. But they're average. You're not
Yes.
you're not going to get mega wealthy being a teacher.
No.
2 questions: how have you been able to use the leverage of your job and the salary that you earn to put you into 18 properties? And what is the reason why you've gone about building this big significant portfolio?
How I started, it's funny because when I started, I had come out of a very awful situation, moved into a unit and I had nothing. I had no money. And I just got a job at TAFE and I was only working a couple of hours a week. But because I was casual, I just said, look, if you need a teacher, I'm available anytime. So I was working all the time and I was amazed. I was always called almost every day. So I was working sometimes 12 hours a day. So every extra cent I saved, I just put away. So that was the other thing. I had to learn to budget, and that's one thing I have learned. I've listened to other people on the podcast who actually say that it's very important that you budget, and it's true. You've got to be disciplined with your money. So you've got to say, okay, do I really need that? Will that really make me happy, or can I do without that and do something else? For example, I probably won't go and buy myself a cup of coffee. I'd rather make a cup of coffee at home, just something small like that. Won't buy food outside. So I had to be really disciplined. That helped me build up the money. At that stage, I wasn't thinking of investing because investing to me was just not something that I do. This is an aside. How I got into it was that my boss, he was a client of RPG. He's now retired, but he was a client of RPG, and he used to come into the office because I used to be there first thing in the morning, and he'd say, what are you doing with your money? You should invest in property. And I'd go, yeah, sure. And I hope you go away. He did that for a whole year. And then finally, under the pressure, he said, look, go to one of the RPG sessions. So I went to the RPG session. It was two things. Went to the RPG session, and then he got me two books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kiyosaki, and McKnight's book, 0 to 350 Properties in 3.5 years, and encouraged me to read them. Well, that's it. That's what clicked over. At that stage, I'd saved up so much money, because I was just thinking of buying my own property, but that opened my eyes, and then I realised, that's how property investing goes. So that's how I got into the property investing, and I had a nest egg of close to 100. I'll tell you a little story that I think is relevant. I had about 100,000. The other thing was that prior to this stage, I had been a smoker, and I went and saw my doctor, and my doctor said, you need to give up smoking. So I stopped smoking, and I'd heard someone say, always when you stop smoking, put money in a separate account, the amount that you pay for cigarettes, and see how it builds up. I'd forgotten about that, and so when I went to get my first property, I had about $20,000 in that account. That was after 6 years of not smoking.
Just from giving up the lung busters.
Just giving up smoking. And I always like telling that story to encourage people who are smoking, give up smoking.
It's a good story.
Yeah, so I used that as that was my deposit for my first property.
So your smokes money was the deposit.
Yeah, it was. So yeah,
That's a first.
Yeah, I like telling that story.
Yeah, it's a great story.
So that was it. So once I'd gone to RPG, and they bought me the first property. So I had about $100,000 with that first.
Just for our listeners, RPG is...
Property
Group.
Yeah.
Okay, buyer's agency.
Yeah, sorry, I'm throwing in acronyms there. So anyway, then, so I bought my first property. Actually, with that $100,000, I bought my first 5 properties. And from then on, I've just been using the topping up and drawing money out of the equity of the properties to buy new properties, and it's been going on like that.
So for you, on a teacher's salary, the rationale for you to invest in property, was it you wanted to be a millionaire? Did you want to be comfortable? What was the idea?
It's funny because it's actually two things now. My original plan, because I thought it was good, it's nice to have a backup. All I cared about is that, it's a nice safety net if something goes wrong, okay? I had no reason to think that anything would go wrong. But now, if you look, I don't know if you've known what's going on with TAFE. We don't know where TAFE's going, so I'm starting to get worried about my job. So about 2 years ago, we went through a process where they started reducing teaching staff. So we had like 150 English teachers, and they've reduced down to 100. And there's like rumours that they're going to do that again. So now I have a different reason. I'm thinking that actually might be what saves me, having the properties. So that's actually what's driving me too. Okay, at this stage.
Okay, good driver.
Yeah.
It's good to have options, I guess, and this is something we talk a lot about on the show, is that having a property portfolio just gives you options in the future. And I get asked all the time, why am I building a big property portfolio? And I say, number one, because it's fun, I enjoy it, and I'm good at it, and I like to win. I like to be good at it. But number two, it's going to give me options in the future for me to choose to do what I want to do. And my intention is to work until the day I die, because I enjoy working. But if you have a portfolio that's generating you income and it gives you the option to potentially not work, well, that's a nice option to have. It's good to have rather than a need to have. So in your situation, it's one of the variables is that if you're concerned about potential employment, the fact that you do have some fallback situation.
Exactly.
So have you found the financing of 18 properties to be a difficult process based on your serviceability of those loans and what the bank views you as a investor or a good borrower?
It's only now that I'm kind of at a block, but no, back in the past, no, it was quite easy, except for the one thing is that I was with one bank and I got to 5 properties, and then
was that CBA?
No.
Okay.
That was ANZ.
All right. So you hit like $1 million and they sort of started going.
Yeah.
Or,
I'll tell you exactly what happened. I had bought my 5th property, and I went back to Right Property Group, and I said, I'm ready for the 6th one. And I went back to ANZ, and went back to the same manager that I'd been with before. Anyway, he said, "Why do you want another property?" He said, "You've already got enough. You've got 5 properties. That's enough." And I kept thinking, but you're not my father, If I want to get 1 million properties, and I can do it. So he just blocked me. There's one regret.
So is that based at all on policy, or is that just based on what his personal views were?
I have no idea. All I do know is that that was, if there's one regret that I have, if I had have started again, I would go back. I would never have gone on my own. I would go to see a broker. I think that's just valuable. Go and see your broker, because what happened was I was actually banking with ANZ. That's my day-to-day banking. Fantastic on a day-to-day, everyday banking. But when it comes to investing, they're not really. I don't find them that they're the best ones to go through with investing. So I wish I had gone through a broker right from day one and allowed them to. Do
you have a broker now?
Oh yeah, I've got Ross Lacane, who I've heard on here.
Okay, Ross. Yeah,
yes,
he's not a bad broker.
Yeah. So yeah, he's been good. So after 5th property, and then I went to him, and so that's how I've got to my 18 properties is through them.
Interesting. So serviceability is okay. Do you sleep well in bed every night, or you sit there with that little property voice in your head saying, Shit.
No, actually, no. The only thing that worries me is more what's happening with TAFE. What's happening with my investments. See, I even know if I lost my job with TAFE, the properties will look after themselves. I'm actually a little bit positive now, but it's not like positive I can live on a salary, but it's like so I can just, if I lose my job, all I can do is that they're on the side, they're just rumbling around in the background. I don't have to touch them or worry about selling properties or anything.
But let's do a what if. Say TAFE closes forever and you're out of a job. So you're 18 properties right now. What is the total value of that portfolio?
Well, I don't know. I estimate it's about somewhere between 4 and 5 million.
Okay, 4 and 5 million bucks. Yeah. Okay. But what's your total debt position on that?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. What I do know is that I'm earning a salary of $14,000 a year in
Positive. Okay.
That's if I've got all the properties with tenants in them.
Yep.
The unfortunate thing is I've got 2 properties. One I'm getting a tenant going in, one's coming out. So, but yeah.
But sort of your LVR position, where would it be? Sort of 60, 70%?
70, I'd say.
70%. So at 70%, you've got a bit of money kicking around there in terms of equity. So if you had to dump the lot and turn it into cash.
Oh, that would be fine. I know that I'll be fine. That's
you can live off that money.
Yeah. I'd have no problem. The other thing being too, so I'm not a big spender. See, I'm not into big cars and big houses, so I'd survive because I'm not a big spender.
So this is your survival situation. Yeah. It's like it's funny how you frame it. I speak to a lot of property investors, and we get all walks of life in here, Mark. And you get young hot shots who are want to drive around Rolls Royces in 10 years' time, or Ferraris, and have Learjets, and that's their driver. And I'm not going to say that's good or bad. If that's what they want to achieve, great, go and do it, and find out a way to do that. And then you get a guy like yourself in a studio who is just happy. You don't want the fancy cars, you don't want the fancy holidays, you're just happy doing what you're doing. You get a lot of satisfaction out of that. And property for you is I'm not going to say it's a safety net.
Oh,
safety net. It's a safety net for you. So that's how you've framed it. And it's obviously a bit philosophical, but the fact that that's the way you see the world, how do you think that has shaped the way that you've gone about building your property portfolio, or how you've gone about setting goals as you sort of progress through it? Because you said beforehand that you went from like 12 to 18 in like a year or something like that. Why? Like, what was that hey, I'm going to do this for this reason, or was it just happened?
No. I've got my plan is I've heard people come on your show and they've got these really defined plans what we're going to do by the end of next week. And I think, no, that's not the way I view it. I have an overall. I know what my aim is, and I haven't put a time on it. I have a very vague, I might say in the next 5 years. So I've actually got the 18 properties, and I know that what I'm generally trying to achieve, and probably in the next 5 years, is to be able to consolidate all those properties in such a way that then I will have an income I can rely on, and then my work at TAFE is, I go there because, I don't know.
Because you probably want to enjoy it.
I like work teaching, because I like teaching. I know where I'm going. I know what I want to do. So I know that, at least I know for the next year, there's one property that I want to build a duplex on it, and I've got a few other plans for getting a few more properties that I can put like a granny flat on. So that can increase the yield. Yes. So within somewhere in the next 5 years, that's if all things go well, my properties will be generating enough income that I can survive on.
So it's very organic plan is sort of quite fluid. It's funny. Like I remember when we had our kids going through all that sort of hospital stuff, and you set a birth plan, and we went, birth plan? What a birth plan? They go, yeah, it's you paint a picture exactly how you want the birth of your children to be. And some people get so passionate about it, and you know what? Most of the time, it never works, right? And people get really, really disappointed about it.
Yeah.
And I think a property plan is not that similar. I don't know where I'm going with this, but the fact that if you plan as much as you can to the letter exactly how you want it to go, it's probably not going to do that. You need to have some scope and flexibility to be able to. You need to know this is what the outcome is, and I want this, but you're going to have to zigzag along the way to get there because things change all the time. Much like a birth plan, people who obsess by and go, I exactly want this song to be playing exactly as my child is born, and so never happens, right? But you need to be responsive enough to change and evolve, and it sounds like you have a very sort of responsive, fluid way in which
I've had to
creating
too,
wealth.
because where that really kicked in was the day that they announced, because I was working at Padstow TAFE, and they said we had to all reapply for our jobs, and then they'd just move us all around, and I didn't know what was going to go on. So it's like, don't buy more properties, just hang in there and just find out what's going on, where everything's going. Then they moved me to Bankstown, now in Bankstown TAFE, and so things have kind of settled. That's when I got back into it. So yeah, I realised that's why I've got the general idea, and I'm glad the allegory of the analogy of the birth thing is really good, because I'd have a general idea, I know where I'm going, but I know that I can shift if I need to. So I'm not. I think too, if you plan too tightly, it can actually frustrate you if you don't reach your goal.
Yeah.
And so if you have a general idea, and so I know I'm going in that right direction, I'm still going there, and I'm going to get there, but I'll let life happen in between, so it's not going to affect me too much.
That's real gold, Phil, because we hear that all the time from the top agents as well. Talk about having this plan, but using the plan more as a guide, and having that, being light enough on your feet to change and to adapt to life situations as they happen. So it's really good to hear you say that. And you were talking off air as well about, 18 properties in, but still having the wherewithal to pick up new tips and learn new things as you go along. So that's real gold, and we see that a lot happening with the top agents as well, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything in life, you've got to be quite fluid about it. Well, that's what I've always done. I roll the punches, right? And control what you can control. Don't worry too much about what you can't control. What TAFE's going to do to you can't really control that at all, but you can be responsive to what happens, and you can be geared to make those changes. So in terms of the management of your properties, do you do it all yourself, or you have property managers?
No, I manage all my properties. Oh no, so I've got property managers who manage the properties, but what I do is I manage the managers.
Okay.
That was good advice from RPG, Right Property Group. They said that it's good that you got the property managers, but it's good to manage the managers, which is very true. Right from the word go, the first 6 months, I remember the first 6 months I had the first property, and then the rental statements came in. I couldn't read it. I had no idea what it meant. And I used to look through it and I thought, I don't know what this means. And then after about 6 months, I actually rang the property manager and I said, look, can I come in and can you explain to me what the rental statement means? She was lovely. She went through it. She explained in all detail. So it took all 6 months and she explained all detail. From then on, I know how to read all of them, and I make sure I do it, because you'd be amazed the number of mistakes they make.
Yeah.
It is just outrageous. When I got my third property, or the fourth property, I'll never forget, within the first month, they had to do some carpet cleaning, and it cost $160. So I got my rental statement, and I religiously, every month, at the end of every month, so it's the first Sunday after we change over to the new month, I go through all my rental statements and put them on a spreadsheet. It takes me about an hour and a half to do all this. And I check all the rental statements, and I'll never forget the first one. They charged me $160 one month and $160 the second month. So I rang them and I said, "Is that a mistake?" And they went back and said, "Oh yeah, we've made a mistake. We realised that." So they said, "Look, we'll credit to you next month." And then they said to me, "You're amazing, because people don't check their statements." And I thought, people must need to have their.
Do you think it was a mistake?
I don't know. This is the thing. Mitch, the guy who was on here, who started property investing from the fishing trip, he told me.
Mitchell, is that Mitchell Burge?
Yeah.
He
because I met him a couple of months ago. Anyway, he told me a story. He said, no, sometimes they might put things on your account when they're not yours.
He's a cynic though.
Yeah, that's okay.
Great guy, but he questions everything,
Okay, well, look, I have to give the benefit of the doubt. And I say, okay, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but I've checked it. And a second one was just only recently, I got a statement from this up in Queensland, and I had the head council rate, and it was like $1,700. And I thought, what? So I rang them, and again, they said, "Oh, gee, you're amazing. You check your rates." And said, "Look, what happened was we actually forgot to pay the last quarterly, so we've put the two together." I wanted to, I was going to lose my temper, and I thought losing your temper is not going to do anything. So I just said, "Look, okay, look, can you just make sure the next time you don't forget?" Same agents, only a couple of days ago, I got a statement they've gone in to fix the toilet of the property. If you didn't know that we were going in to do that, please give them a call. I gave them a call and I said, "I don't remember you ringing me to tell me we needed to fix the toilet." And the lady was she was apologetic, and again, I was going to lose my temper, and I thought, no, I'll just take it coolly. But I just said, "Look, could you please make sure that the next time that you let me know that you're going in to do these things." But that's the thing. Sometimes I get the statements. So every month I go through all the statements. It takes about an hour. When I first started doing it, strangely, when I had 5 or 6 properties, it used to take me about 3 or 4 hours. But I've worked out how to do it so I can do it within an hour. And one of the reasons why it took me so long is I used to print them out. And I thought, no, this is a waste of time. So what I do is I have 2 computers. I've got my normal desktop computer and I've got my laptop with my email open. And I go through and just put it on the spreadsheet for each month. Anything that looks untoward, turn around to my other computer and then send an email straight away and say, "Can you please explain this?"
And so the Mark Frew system is just something that you've created yourself that works for you?
Yeah and no. It's the spreadsheet. Again, it was Right Property Group suggested 2 things. They suggested having a Liebig folders and a spreadsheet. I'll tell you about the Liebig folders because what happened was the first time I went and saw my tax accountant in Munsrell, I took my Liebig folders and they were all beautifully organised and colour-coded and everything. And I was hoping that Munsrell was going to say, "Oh, Mark Frew, you've been doing excellent work, A+."
Smiley face.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a teacher, you know.
No, I do. Yeah, very much a teacher. Anyway, then he said to me, "What you really need to do is just create a spreadsheet." So I thought, okay. So that's when it was Kate at Right Property Group. She sent that spreadsheet over to me, and it just works fantastic. So every month I do it. For all 18 properties. Anyway, the next year I went to go back to the 2 months rule and I said, it's going to be a bit difficult. I think I had 8 properties by then. I said, it's going to be difficult carrying all my folders because I don't live very far from his office. And he goes, no, you just send me the spreadsheet. Just email me the spreadsheet. You don't have to send the folders. And I thought, but I put so much work into these folders. They're beautiful.
But having the thing is that it's a process, right? So the way that your mind works is that you can see it's probably you've probably got a folder for each property and it's a section of each thing. Yeah. That's just how you compartmentalize and segment your thought process.
But
and
also
that works for you. That's okay.
It helps you to know where things are. If you ask me, have you paid the insurance for this property? I probably couldn't tell you, but I can get the folders there. It's there.
But you know where it's the Google of your property portfolio, right? You might not know the information, but you know where to go to get that information.
The advantage of it too, I mean, I do it every month. So you do. So for 12 months you do it. Then when it gets to the 12 months, you just email it to Munsrell, to my tax consultant. And because he's got the spreadsheets all there, that makes his job easy. Therefore, makes my job and his job easy. Okay. So I've had to be strict. I've had to be disciplined every month to do it. I hear people talk all the time about being disciplined with money, but I don't hear many people say being disciplined with time. And you do have to put a bit of time. So I've got to put time aside. This time is for doing my property.
So you do that the first Sunday of every month?
Mm-hmm.
Do you enjoy it, or is it a chore?
No, it's a bit of a chore, but I know I have to do it. So it's like it's a necessity. Yeah. So, but Sunday nights, it's the night I, iron my clothes, polish my shoes, prepare my lessons for the week. So it goes into, okay, that's my Sunday night preparation.
Okay, so makes sense. That's good. It's I think once for our listeners, only with 1 or 2 properties, to actually get the rigor of understanding, and everyone's different, but understanding how you can best manage your portfolio and the tools you need to do that is essential from the absolute get-go, because once you get to 18, things can come off the rails.
Oh, exactly.
Pretty quickly.
I'm glad I did it right from the beginning for that reason, because when you have 2 or 3, like, you can trial and error too. You've got ample time to, like, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? See, by the time you get to like 10, it's getting a bit of a monster, 12, and then because 18. But as I say, because I've been doing it so long for the last 6 years, you just streamline it. So this works better, this works better.
It's got to work for you. You can borrow other people's ideas and ways they do that, but it's got to be personal to yourself. And there's some really good software around these days also that does all this sort of stuff. I get someone to do it for me is the way I manage it. So, which works for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's really interesting. So what's the future? We're going to have to start winding up pretty soon, Tim. What's the future for you, mate?
Future. I know. I can only tell you what my near future is. I just know that the next plan I have in mind, which is going to, because I really want to kind of have a bit of a break for the end of the year, but I know that the first thing I'm planning on doing beginning of next year, I've got a plan, one of my properties, to put a duplex on it. That's when you're doing building. So that's really a big thing. It's going to absorb a lot of my time. So that's my first step next year. So I need to start looking at getting finances and start working out how I'm going to approach it.
Yeah.
So that's my short term. Long term, I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head.
I'd be really interested to know. We always talk to people about their sort of the learnings that they have, the sort of the top tips. Having been in the business now a little while and built up this nice portfolio, if you were talking to sort of new investors coming on board, what would be your top tip for securing finance? Well, let's start with that. What would be your top tip for securing finance?
Securing finance, be disciplined with your money. So you have to say, okay, what really do you enjoy doing? What can you do without? And go and see a broker.
Okay. And I was going to ask you, what's your top tip about a broker? What do you look for in a broker?
One who can, they've got to be in property investing themselves. Okay. So they have to know the game, and they themselves are successful.
That's good advice, mate. What about renovations? You say
I hate renovations.
What have you learned?
Don't do them, he's saying.
Let's say this way. What would you think that you would not do?
The way I'm going to answer this question this way, I hate renovations, but one thing I have learnt is if they are a bonus, if they're worth doing, I've done a few renovations, I realise I don't have to do them. Okay, just make sure I've got a good team of tradespeople who can do them. My idea is, because I don't like renovations, I try to do as little as possible.
Right.
So I say, okay, what really do I need to fix? What can I get away with?
Yeah, mate. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier about to get the people to do it, but then manage them.
Yeah,
the managers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if I can, I'll go out and have a look and see how things are going. Because the thing is, I'm not a very manual person. I'm very good with my hands, but if it's close by and I can pop over, I'll go and have a look. Some of the tradies are really, really nice because you can sit and you can ask, what are you doing? It's just so that I can get my head around it to know what they're doing.
Mate, and one last question from me, just, people coming in, they've got one or two properties already in their portfolio. They want to move on like you did. What would be the thing that you would say, how to do that? What's the next step?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer because it depends on where they are in their life, what their plans are. Yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer for that reason.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
So everyone's different. So we didn't actually talk about just where all your 18 properties were. Just one quick second on portfolio diversification. Where are your properties?
A lot of them are here in Sydney, one in Orange, 4 up in Queensland, so that's in the Logan and Ipswich area. There's 2 in Adelaide and 2 in Victoria.
Final question from me. What's the biggest lemon that you have in that portfolio? Is there one property where you just go, what was I thinking?
No, to be honest with you, they're all good. I would say that's probably the slowest moving.
If that's what you're framed as a lemon, that's okay.
Okay.
Orange?
Yeah, I think it's the orange one. That one's, it's slow moving, but the thing is, at the same time, it's not bad. It's kind of
you probably get a good yield though, I would imagine, out in orange.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a really good way to finish this podcast is when you start generating a large portfolio of 18 properties, you're going to have different properties at different stages, different levels of maturity, different rates of growth, different yields. So you need to view it holistically about what is the return you're getting from the entire portfolio, but still look at each individual property and see what role do they play in that portfolio. So your orange property might not be going up in value as fast as other areas where you have properties, but the flip side of that probably delivers a good yield and good positive cash flow as well. So every property in your portfolio has a role to play. And if you've got any which are real dogs or lemons, sometimes if you can understand the role they play, that's okay. But if they're just keeping you back, sometimes it's good just to flick them. So, Mark, mate, really appreciate your time coming in. Also appreciate the work you're doing at TAFE, helping to educate
mainly migrants
as new migrants, and hopefully instilling some of the values around property investment and the Great Australian Dream with them. No, it's good, mate. It's commendable, I think, and a lot of our listeners, believe it or not, are teachers. It's really good to see and hear. I remember. I think we were chatting about it the other day. I can't remember where it was, but during budget, I was down in Canberra for all that sort of stuff, and I think the Federal Treasurer was talking about, and I think it was around a debate around negative gearing. They said 1 in 4 serving police people are property investors.
Oh, okay.
And they sort of, link that into nurses and teachers. And this is the mainstay of investment community. So keep it up, keep it going. Let's get you back when you've added another 10 and let's talk about how you've done that.
Okay, yes, no worries.
Which is great. Tim, mate, thanks for joining me again.
Thank you again, Phil. It's always good.
Very good. Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We're going to write out some articles around Mark's story and hopefully maybe get some pictures of your portfolio. It'd be good to put up there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sweet. Remember to follow us on all the Facebook stuff, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can follow me at Philip Tarrant on Twitter if you like. Remember to leave those 5-star ratings on iTunes. The more you rate the podcast, the more people will listen to it, and help us build the community around property investing and the way in which you can go about doing it, like Mark's story, to help create wealth over time. And for Mark, it's very much a safety net. For other people, it might be to drive that Ferrari, but we're all created differently. However, let's all sort of get together and keep sharing our stories so we can all become better property investors. So tune in next week. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.